Captain James Reed stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of tactical displays. The vessel hung in low Earth orbit, one of humanity's last functioning warships. Below them, continents bore the scars of the 3-month Brevik invasion, scorched cities and glassed farmlands visible even from space. "Contact bearing 347, sir," Lieutenant Wilson reported, her voice steady despite the tension. "Brevik cruiser, Ravager class." Reed nodded grimly. 6 weeks ago, such a sighting would have sent them scrambling for cover. Now, it represented an opportunity. The Breviks had arrived without warning or demands. Their massive ships had descended upon Earth's major cities, deploying ground forces that slaughtered without discrimination. Billions died in the first week. The alien invaders stood 9 feet tall, armored in biomechanical exoskeletons, seemingly invincible. But humanity hadn't fallen easily. After the initial shock, resistance formed. Scientists worked frantically to understand the enemy, while soldiers and civilians alike fought with desperate ingenuity. 3 months of brutal conflict had taught humankind painful lessons about their enemy. The Breviks didn't take prisoners. They didn't negotiate. And most importantly, they had no concept of mercy. "Ready the capture team," Reed ordered. "They'll be expecting us to run or die. Let's show them something new." The plan was born of desperation and countless sacrifices. Dr. Miller had died getting them the first functional Brevik translator. Commander Abrams and his team had perished bringing back an intact Brevik neural interface. Each piece of intelligence was purchased with blood. Reed watched as the tactical officer highlighted a small section on the alien vessel. "Communication node located, sir. Shield fluctuations match previous patterns." Reed tapped his comm. "Strike team leader, this is the captain. You have clearance to launch. Remember, we need that commander alive." "Copy that, Captain," came Major Bell's clipped response. "Team is prepped and ready." The strike shuttle departed with minimal thruster activity, appearing as little more than space debris to casual sensors. Major Bell and his team of 12 wore experimental suits, reverse-engineered from captured Brevik technology. The culmination of humanity's frantic adaptation. Reed returned to the main view screen, watching the alien vessel grow larger. The Breviks had proven unstoppable conquerors on hundreds of worlds. Because species either surrendered immediately or fought conventional wars they couldn't win. What the aliens hadn't counted on was humanity's capacity to learn, adapt, and redefine the rules of engagement. "Sir, the strike team has made contact with the target vessel," Wilson reported. "Breach in progress." Reed nodded. "Commence distraction protocols." The Defiance fired its engines, moving out of its hiding position among the orbital debris. Immediately, the Brevik cruiser's weapon systems began tracking them. "They're powering up main cannons," Wilson announced. "Hold position," Reed commanded. "Keep their attention." Minutes stretched like hours as the Defiance played its dangerous game of cat and mouse, staying just out of the Brevik cruiser's optimal firing solutions, while remaining close enough to hold its attention. Then the comm crackled. "Captain, this is Bell. Package secured, withdrawal in progress." Reed allowed himself the smallest smile. "Well done, Major. Return to base." 3 hours later, Reed stood in the containment lab deep within the lunar facility that had become humanity's last secure research center. Before him, restrained to a reinforced chair, sat a Brevik commander. Without its armor, the alien appeared almost frail. Gray skin stretched over an elongated frame, 4 black eyes blinking in the harsh light. "Dr. Patel approached, neural interface equipment ready. We only have one shot at this, Captain." Reed nodded. "Then make it count, Doctor." The captured neural technology would allow them to extract the information they needed directly from the Brevik commander's mind. It was invasive, painful, and would kill the alien. But after what Earth had endured, mercy meant making death quick rather than prolonged. "Begin," Reed ordered. The Brevik commander thrashed against its restraints as Dr. Patel activated the neural interface. Its high-pitched shriek echoed through the lab, causing several technicians to flinch. Reed remained impassive, watching as data streams appeared. On the monitoring screens, fleet deployment patterns, command protocols, biological weaknesses. "It's all here," Dr. Patel murmured, her fingers flying across the controls. "Their entire invasion strategy." The alien continued to struggle until, Suddenly it went limp, black eyes glazing over. Dr. Patel checked her instruments and nodded to Reed. "It's done, Captain. We got everything." Reed approached the now-deceased brevet commander. "One quick death, more than they gave us." He turned to Dr. Patel. "How long until you can synthesize this information into something actionable?" 24 hours, she replied. "The translation matrices are still crude, but we're getting better with each capture." Reed nodded. "Make it 12. We're running out of time." The lunar facility had once been a scientific outpost, now converted into humanity's last command center. As Reed made his way through the crowded corridors, he noted the determined faces of the survivors, scientists, soldiers, and civilians, united by loss and purpose. In the central war room, a holographic projection of Earth rotated slowly, red markers indicating Breivik strongholds. General Kane, a grizzled veteran who had lost an arm in the early days of the invasion, looked up as Reed entered. "Tell me you got something useful, Captain." Reed placed a data chip on the table. Coordinates of their central command vessel, communication protocols, and most importantly, the location of their atmospheric processors. Kane's eyes widened. "They're terraforming?" "That's their end game," Reed confirmed. "They're not just invading, they're converting Earth's atmosphere to match their homeworld. That's why they're not bothering with widespread occupation yet. They're waiting for the planet to become uninhabitable for us and perfect for them." The information extracted from the brevet commander's mind revealed a pattern seen across dozens of worlds. The Breiviks were ecosystem colonizers. They didn't adapt to planets. They forced planets to adapt to them. Kane studied the new data grimly. "How long do we have?" "Weeks, not months," Reed replied. "But now we know where to strike." The following hours were a flurry of planning. The intelligence provided by the captured commander proved invaluable, revealing not just strategic weaknesses, but fundamental aspects of Breivik psychology that humans had misunderstood from the beginning. "They have no concept of surrender," Dr. Patel explained during the briefing. "In their evolutionary history, mercy never developed as a survival trait. To show weakness is to die. To allow weakness in others is to contaminate the species." "Which explains why they slaughter indiscriminately," Kane growled. "And why they never expected us to adapt so quickly," Reed added. "According to this data, we've lasted longer than any species they've encountered in the last 300 years of their expansion." The plan that emerged was audacious, bordering on suicidal. Using the communication protocols extracted from the commander, they would send false orders to the atmospheric processors, turning the alien technology against itself. Meanwhile, strike teams would target the central command vessel using knowledge of Breivik ship layouts and vulnerabilities. Commander Taylor, leader of the ground forces, raised a critical question. "What about prisoners? We're bound to encounter live Breiviks during the operation." A heavy silence fell over the room. Reed looked at each face before answering. "The neural extraction is fatal, and we need the tactical information from as many command-level Breiviks as possible. We don't have the resources to maintain prisoners, and leaving them alive compromises our security." His voice hardened. "One quick death. That's our version of mercy. More than they've shown us." No one objected. After 3 months of witnessing Breivik brutality, ethical qualms about their treatment had largely evaporated. As the meeting disbanded, Dr. Patel caught up with Reed in the corridor. "There's something else in the data," she said quietly. "Something I think you should see privately." In her lab, she pulled up a series of memory fragments extracted from the commander's mind. Images of a massive fleet, far larger than what had attacked Earth. "This isn't their full invasion force," she explained. "It's just the vanguard. The main fleet is still months away." Reed's blood ran cold. "Then we're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting for time." Dawn broke over the ruins of what had once been Chicago, pale light illuminating the twisted remains of skyscrapers. Major Bell and his strike team moved silently through the rubble-strewn streets, their adaptive camouflage suits blending perfectly with the urban destruction. Ahead loomed their target, a towering atmospheric processor, one of 12 deployed across Earth's surface. "Command, this is Strike Team Alpha," Bell whispered into his comm. "We're in position." From the Lunar Command Center, Reed's voice came through clearly. "Understood, Alpha. All teams report ready. Commence Operation Deadfall on my mark. Across the globe, similar teams had infiltrated the regions around each processor. The intelligence extracted from the captured Breivik commanders had provided detailed schematics of the massive machines, and more importantly, their vulnerabilities. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Bell gave the signal, and his team advanced. The processor was guarded by a contingent of Breivik soldiers, their biomechanical armor gleaming in the morning light. Thanks to the captured data, humans now understood that these weren't merely suits, but symbiotic extensions of Breivik physiology, and they knew precisely where to target. The first guard fell to a precision shot at the junction between helmet and collar, a neural cluster that, when severed, caused catastrophic feedback throughout the system. The second guard turned just in time to receive a similar fate. No alarms sounded. The Breiviks had never needed them before. Their confidence had become their weakness. Inside the processor control room, Bell's tech specialist, Martinez, connected their interface device to the main console. The Breivik language scrolled across her portable screen, now decipherable thanks to the translations extracted from captured commanders. Uploading the modified protocol, Martinez reported. If this works, the processor will reverse its cycle, pulling their atmospheric compounds out instead of pumping them in. If this works, Bell repeated, we'll turn their own terraforming against them. Outside, the rest of the team engaged the remaining guards in silent, efficient combat. Humanity had learned quickly that conventional warfare against the Breiviks was suicide. Instead, they fought with precision, stealth, and the aliens' own technology adapted against them. Upload complete, Martinez announced. Processor reconfigured. It'll start the reversal cycle in 30 minutes. Bell nodded. Plant the charges as backup. If the reversal doesn't work, we blow it sky high. As the team rigged explosives around critical junctions, Bell's comm activated again. Alpha, this is Command. Beta through Kilo teams report similar success. Only Lima is encountering heavy resistance. Bell checked his tactical display. Lima team was in former Beijing, facing what appeared to be a much larger Breivik presence than intelligence had indicated. We're finished here, Bell replied. Request permission to provide Lima with support. Negative, Alpha, Reed responded. Proceed to secondary objective. We've detected a Breivik command shuttle landing near your position. High-value target on board. Bell signaled his team to move out. Copy that, Command. Alpha moving to intercept. 3 kilometers away, they located the shuttle, sleeker than the standard Breivik dropships, clearly designed for officer transport. Bell deployed his team in an ambush formation around the landing site. The shuttle's doors opened, revealing 4 standard Breivik guards escorting a taller figure. Unlike the others, this one's exoskeleton bore elaborate markings that the captured intelligence identified as indicators of high rank. Sub-commander or higher, Bell whispered to his team. Remember, we need it alive for extraction. The first shots took down 2 guards instantaneously. The remaining guards moved to protect the officer, who retreated toward the shuttle. Bell's sniper eliminated another guard with a perfect shot to the neural cluster. The officer barked orders, in the harsh Breivik language, drawing what appeared to be a ceremonial weapon. Bell recognized it from the intelligence briefings, a close combat blade used by Breivik nobility, capable of emitting a disruptive energy field. Non-lethal takedown, Bell ordered. Use the neural stunners. His team converged, firing the specially designed weapons that exploited a quirk of Breivik neurology discovered during the interrogations. The officer collapsed, paralyzed but conscious. Package secured, Bell reported, requesting immediate extraction. As his team secured the prisoner, Bell noticed something clutched in its hand, a small device with rapidly blinking lights. Martinez! What is that? The tech specialist examined it carefully. Some kind of communication device. It was activated before we took it down. Bell felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. Command, the target managed to send a signal before capture. Possible compromise. Reed's response was immediate. Understood. All teams, accelerate timetable, complete objectives, and evacuate immediately. As if in answer to the warning, the ground shook beneath them. In the distance, massive shapes began descending through the clouds. Breivik warships, far more than had been active in the region previously. They're calling in reinforcements, Martinez said, voice tight with tension. Bell stared at the captured Breivik officer. Even paralyzed, its 4 black eyes seemed to hold a hint of triumph. Extraction incoming, ETA 3 minutes, Reed informed them. Hold position. Bell watched the approaching warships, understanding with grim clarity that the real battle was only beginning. The Lunar Command Center was in controlled chaos when Bell's team arrived with their captive. Medical personnel rushed the paralyzed Breivik officer to the neural extraction chamber, while Reed and General Kane debriefed Bell on the deteriorating situation. They've deployed their reserve fleet, Kane explained, gesturing to the tactical display where dozens of red markers orbited Earth. Your prisoner's distress call changed their entire strategic posture. Reed studied the display grimly. But the atmospheric processors? 11 successfully reconfigured, 1 destroyed, Kane replied. They're already reversing the terraforming process. In approximately 72 hours, the atmospheric compounds will be neutralized. Bell removed his tactical helmet, revealing an exhausted face. So we've won? We've survived the first phase, Reed corrected. But now they know we understand. Their technology. They know we can hurt them. And they're responding accordingly. A junior officer rushed into the room. Captain, Dr. Patel requests your immediate presence in the extraction chamber. She says it's urgent. Reed found Dr. Patel staring at her screens in disbelief. The captured Breivik officer lay motionless on the examination table, neural interface, connected to its elongated skull. What am I looking at, Doctor? Reed asked. Patel pointed to the data streams. This isn't just any officer, Captain. Based on the neural patterns and memory structures, we've captured their equivalent of a fleet. Admiral, her voice dropped. And it was deliberate. Explain. This officer allowed itself to be captured. The neural patterns show preparatory conditioning. They knew we were taking prisoners for intelligence gathering. She highlighted sections of brain activity on her screen. It was carrying falsified strategic information, layered over actual memories to appear authentic. Reed's expression darkened. They're adapting to our tactics. Yes, but that's not the worst part. Patel pulled up another display. I found this buried deep in its long-term memory centers, deliberately hidden behind trauma blocks. The screen showed images of massive orbital structures surrounding planets, systematically stripping them of resources before the planets themselves were shattered. They don't just conquer worlds, Captain, Patel said quietly. Once a planet is fully terraformed and colonized, they eventually harvest the planet itself for raw materials. Earth isn't just an invasion target. It's scheduled for complete consumption. The revelation hit Reed like a physical blow. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the very existence of their home planet. How long? Based on these memories, full planetary consumption would begin approximately 50 Earth years after complete colonization. Reed stared at the dying Breivik admiral. Despite the paralysis, its 4 eyes remained fixed on him with what could only be described as contempt. It was willing to die to deliver false information, Reed observed. But in doing so, it revealed something far more valuable. He turned to the communication panel. General Kane, assemble the War Council immediately, and get me Dr. Thompson from Xenobiology. An hour later, humanity's remaining military and scientific leadership had gathered in the command center. Dr. Thompson, a slender man with prematurely white hair, stood beside a holographic display of Breivik physiology. The atmospheric processors were just the first stage, Reed explained. The Breiviks aren't just making Earth habitable for themselves. They're preparing it for eventual consumption. The captured admiral's memories confirm this is their standard procedure across all conquered worlds. Dr. Thompson took over the briefing. We've discovered something critical about Breivik biology. The terraforming compounds they're introducing don't just make our atmosphere suitable for them. They're addictive to their physiology. He highlighted the alien respiratory system. Once exposed to the converted atmosphere for approximately 20 Earth days, their biology becomes dependent on specific compounds. Without these compounds, their neural functions degrade rapidly. General Kane leaned forward. You're saying if we keep the atmospheric processors reversed, we turn Earth's atmosphere into poison for any Breivik who's been here longer than 3 weeks, Thompson confirmed. They either retreat to their ships or die in agony within hours. A murmur ran through the assembled leaders. For the first time since the invasion began, they had a genuine tactical advantage. But they'll simply bombard us from orbit, an Air Force colonel pointed out. Reed nodded. Which is why we need to take the fight to them. The Admiral's unguarded memories revealed the location and access codes for their main command carrier. He looked around the room. I need volunteers for a suicide mission. The USS Defiance hung in the shadow of Earth's moon, its hull modified with salvaged Brevik technology. Captain Reed stood on the bridge, watching as the last of the strike team boarded. The plan was elegant in its simplicity, and terrible in its implications. A one-way trip to the Brevik command carrier. Final systems check complete, Lieutenant Wilson reported. Brevik transponder codes are functioning. As far as their fleet is concerned, we're a returning scout vessel. Major Bell entered the bridge, now wearing a modified version of Brevik armor. The biomechanical components had been removed, replaced with human technology that mimicked their functionality. Strike team is ready, he reported. 20 volunteers, all equipped with the modified armor and neural disruptors. Reed nodded. Once we're aboard the command carrier, we'll have approximately 30 minutes before they realize we're not Brevik. In that time, we need to reach their atmospheric control center and upload the modified protocols to the entire fleet. Dr. Patel had joined them for this final mission, carrying a complex device containing the uploading software. If this works, every ship in their fleet will begin pumping the same compounds through their environmental systems that we've reversed on Earth. Their own vessels will become death traps. And if it doesn't work? Wilson asked quietly. Then, Earth falls, Reed replied simply. But not before we make them pay a price they'll never forget. The journey to the Brevik command carrier took 6 tense hours. The massive vessel loomed before them. 17 kilometers of biomechanical engineering that served as the heart of the invasion fleet. Around it, hundreds of smaller warships maintained formation. Receiving automated docking instructions, Wilson reported. They're buying our cover. Reed addressed the bridge crew one final time. Each of you volunteered knowing this was likely a one-way mission. Whatever happens in the next hour will determine whether humanity has a future. It has been my honor to serve with you. The Defiance docked with minimal scrutiny, the Brevik transponder codes functioning perfectly. Reed led the first team out, followed by Bell's strike force. The interior of the command carrier was vast, corridors stretching in organic patterns that seemed to pulse with life. Remember, minimal engagement, Reed whispered as they encountered the first Brevik crew members. We need to reach the environmental control center without raising alarms. The captured intelligence proved accurate. Using service corridors and maintenance tunnels, they navigated the enormous vessel with only brief encounters with Brevik personnel. When confrontation was unavoidable, the neural disruptors proved devastatingly effective. 20 minutes after boarding, they reached the environmental control center. 4 Brevik technicians turned in surprise as the human strike team entered. Take them down, Reed ordered. Bell's team fired with precision, dropping the aliens before they could trigger alarms. Dr. Patel rushed to the main control interface, connecting her device to what appeared to be an organic computing node. Beginning upload sequence. This will take approximately 5 minutes. Reed positioned his team at the entrance. Hold this position. Nothing gets through. The minutes ticked by in tense silence. On her portable display, Patel watched as the upload progress slowly advanced. 60% complete, she reported. The system is accepting our modified. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the vessel, lights shifting to a pulsing red hue. They've discovered the Defiance, Wilson warned, checking her tactical display. Security teams converging on our position. Reed made a quick decision. Bell, take half the team and create a diversion. We need to buy Dr. Patel more time. Bell nodded, selecting 10 members of the strike force. We'll head toward their armory. That should draw their attention. As Bell's team departed, the first sounds of combat echoed down the corridor. The Breviks were responding in force. 80%, Patel announced, fingers flying across her interface. Just a little longer. The first wave of Brevik security. Forces appeared at the far end of the corridor. Reed and his remaining team opened fire, the narrow space becoming a killing ground. Neural disruptors dropped the first line of attackers, but more kept coming. 95%, Patel called. Out. Almost there. A massive explosion rocked the ship, Bell's diversion taking effect. The momentary confusion gave Reed's team precious seconds to reinforce their position. Upload complete, Patel finally announced. The environmental systems are reconfiguring ship-wide, and the commands are propagating to the connected fleet. Vessels. Reed allowed himself a grim smile. Now we need to get off this ship before the atmosphere changes. But as they gathered to retreat, a new alarm sounded, different from the security alert, more urgent and pervasive. They've detected the environmental changes, Patel realized. They're initiating emergency protocols. The corridor ahead was now filled with Brevik forces. Their only exit was cut off. Options? Reed asked, already knowing the answer. Wilson checked her tactical display. The nearest escape pods are 3 decks up. We'd never make it through there. Security cordon. Reed looked at each member of his team, then at the environmental readouts on Patel's display. The atmospheric composition was already changing throughout the ship. How long before the atmosphere becomes lethal to them? He asked. 15 minutes for those who've been planet-side, Patel replied. Perhaps an hour for those who haven't, Reed nodded, coming to a decision. We hold here, as long as we can. The command carrier's corridors became a battleground as Reed's team fought to hold their position. The Brevik security forces pressed their attack with increasing desperation, whether from military discipline or dawning awareness of the changing atmosphere. They refused to retreat. Save ammunition, Reed ordered as another wave of attackers fell back. Make every shot count. Dr. Patel monitored her portable display, tracking the atmospheric changes spreading throughout the Brevik fleet. The chain reaction is working. Every connected vessel is now cycling the reversed compounds through their environmental systems. Wilson, bleeding from a shoulder wound, checked her tactical scanner. Sir, I'm picking up unusual movement patterns. They're evacuating the command carrier. Reed moved to her side, studying the display. Indeed, dozens of small craft were launching from various hangars around the massive vessel. They're abandoning ship, he confirmed. The senior officers, at least, saving themselves while leaving the rest to die. A bitter understanding passed between them. The Brevik's lack of mercy extended even to their own kind. Those deemed most valuable would escape. The rest were expendable. Captain, one of the strike team called out. Major Bell is reporting in. Reed activated his comm. Bell, what's your status? Static crackled before Bell's voice came through, punctuated by weapons fire. We've secured a hangar bay. Several escape vessels still docked. We can extract. Hope flickered briefly in Reed's chest. Hold position. We're coming to you. Reed quickly evaluated their situation. The corridor ahead remained heavily defended, but the Brevik forces were thinning as more officers evacuated. With the atmospheric changes accelerating, confusion was spreading throughout the ship. Wilson, take point. Patel, stay in the center. Everyone else, defensive formation. We're moving out. They fought their way through 3 decks, encountering increasingly disorganized resistance. Many Brevik soldiers were already showing signs of atmospheric poisoning, erratic movements, impaired coordination. Some had removed their helmets, desperately trying to filter the air through secondary breathing organs. They're experiencing exactly what they did to Earth, Wilson observed grimly. Poetic justice. Reed didn't respond. There was no satisfaction in this slaughter, only the grim necessity of survival. When they finally reached the hangar bay, they found Bell's team holding a defensive perimeter around 3 Brevik shuttles. Half of his original force remained standing. The rest didn't make it, Bell reported, nodding toward the bodies of his fallen comrades. But we've prepped the shuttles for launch. The Brevik navigation systems are surprisingly intuitive. Reed did a quick head count. Between his team and Bell's, 23 humans remained alive. They could all escape. Get everyone on board, he ordered. Dr. Patel, can you pilot one of these? She nodded. The neural extraction gave us their basic flight protocols. As they boarded the shuttles, an enormous tremor shook the hangar bay. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship. What was that? Reed demanded. Wilson checked her scanner. Sir, they're activating the ship's self-destruct sequence. The command carrier is going to blow. Time? 8 minutes. Reed made an instant decision. Everyone on the shuttles now. Patel, Bell, each of you take one. I'll pilot the third. In the frantic evacuation, Reed pulled Wilson aside. Lieutenant, I need you to do something. Take this. He handed her a data chip. Full documentation of everything we've learned about the Breviks. If anything happens to the rest of us, humanity needs this information. Wilson accepted the chip solemnly. "We're all getting out of here, sir." The 3 shuttles launched just as another violent tremor rocked the command carrier. Through the viewport, Reed watched as sections of the massive vessel began venting atmosphere. All around, Breivik ships were in disarray, some attempting to flee, others drifting aimlessly as their crews succumbed to the poisoned air. "All shuttles, form up on me," Reed ordered through the comm. "We're making a run for Earth." The journey back was chaotic. Many Breivik vessels, their command structures collapsed in the sudden crisis, fired indiscriminately at anything moving. Other ships collided in their panic to escape the spreading atmospheric contamination. Behind them, the command carrier erupted in a blinding explosion that sent shockwaves through the fleet. The blast caught their shuttles, sending them tumbling. "Stabilize," Reed shouted into the comm. "Compensate with lateral thrusters." He fought with the alien controls, bringing his shuttle back on course. Through the comm came Bell's steady voice. "Shuttle 2 stable." Then Patel. "Shuttle 3 damaged but operational." As Earth grew larger in their viewports, Reed allowed himself to believe they might survive after all. The Breivik fleet was in disarray, the chain of command shattered by the simultaneous loss of their flagship and the incapacitation of forces that had been planetside. "We did it," Wilson said quietly from the co-pilot's seat. "We actually hurt them." Reed nodded. "But this isn't over. Not by a long shot." As if in confirmation of his words, their sensors detected a new wave of signals. From beyond the orbit of Mars, massive energy signatures were appearing. The main Breivik fleet had arrived. 3 weeks after the destruction of the Breivik command carrier, humanity gathered in the subterranean chambers beneath what had once been Geneva. Representatives from surviving enclaves around the world sat around a circular table, their faces bearing the common marks of those who had lived through apocalypse. Hollow eyes, premature lines, expressions hardened by loss. Captain Reed, now Admiral by unanimous consent of the Emergency Council, addressed the assembled leaders. "The main Breivik fleet has established orbit around Mars," he began. "They've been analyzing our strike against their vanguard and adapting their strategy accordingly. They no longer send ground forces without atmospheric suits, and they've abandoned the atmospheric processing approach entirely." General Kane, his remaining arm resting on a tactical display, continued the briefing. "Instead, they've shifted to a siege mentality. Periodic orbital bombardment of suspected resistance strongholds, but no large-scale landings. They're being cautious now." "They fear us," Bell observed from his position near the wall. Now Colonel Bell, he commanded Earth's unified defense forces, a patchwork army of military survivors and civilian volunteers. For the first time in their history of conquest, they've encountered a species that made them bleed. Dr. Patel presented the latest analysis from her research team. "The neural extractions have given us unprecedented insight into Breivik psychology. Their species evolved as apex predators with no natural enemies. Their entire social structure is built around dominance hierarchies. They literally cannot comprehend the concept of resistance once dominance is established. And yet here we are," a representative from the Australian enclave noted. "Still fighting. Which makes us an anomaly in their experience," Patel continued. "Based on the extracted memories, no species has ever reversed their terraforming process or successfully infiltrated their command structures." Reed nodded. "We've forced them to reconsider their approach to Earth. The question is, what comes next?" The answer came sooner than expected. As the council debated strategy, an aide rushed into the chamber. "Admiral, our orbital sensors have detected movement. The Breivik fleet is breaking orbit around Mars. They're heading away from the solar system." Stunned silence fell over the assembly. "Confirmation?" Reed demanded. "Multiple sources, sir. They're definitely withdrawing. All ships." The representatives erupted in excited conversation. Words like victory and salvation echoed through the chamber. Reed exchanged glances with Kane, Bell, and Patel. None of them shared the excitement. "This isn't surrender," Reed stated flatly, silencing the room. "The Breiviks don't surrender. Ever." "Dr. Patel, what's your analysis?" Patel considered for a moment. "There are 2 possibilities. Either they're genuinely retreating, which contradicts everything we know about their species, or they're planning something worse," Kane finished grimly. Reed turned to the communications officer. "Contact our lunar observatory. I want all telescopes focused on that fleet." Hours later, Reed stood in the observatory control room, watching the enhanced images of the departing Breivik fleet. Something about their formation troubled him. "They're not accelerating to FTL," he noted. "They're maintaining sublight speed and tight formation." The astronomer at the console nodded. "And there's something else, Admiral. They're deploying objects from their rear ships, small metallic objects that remain in solar orbit." Reed felt a chill run down his spine. "Magnify those objects." The screen zoomed in on one of the deployed devices. Its purpose became immediately clear. A sophisticated weapons platform, autonomous and self-maintaining. "They're not retreating," Reed realized. "They're establishing a quarantine perimeter, building a prison around our entire solar system." Further observation confirmed his theory. The Breivik fleet was systematically deploying thousands of automated weapons platforms at regular intervals, creating a shell around the solar system that would destroy any vessel attempting to leave. 2 days later, the Emergency Council reconvened. Reed explained the situation in stark terms. The Breiviks have implemented what their military doctrine calls species containment. When they encounter a species too difficult to conquer conventionally, but too dangerous to leave unchecked, they lock them in their home system with automated defenses. "So they've given up?" asked the European representative hopefully. "No," Reed replied firmly. "They've changed tactics. These platforms will prevent us from expanding beyond our solar system while they gather reinforcements. According to the intelligence we've gathered, they'll return in force. Perhaps decades from now, perhaps centuries. But they will return." The implications settled heavily on the assembly. Humanity had won a reprieve, not a victory. "What do we do?" someone finally asked. Reed's expression was resolute. "We prepare. We rebuild. We study every piece of Breivik, technology we've captured. We learn from this first invasion to be ready for the next." Bell stepped forward. "The Breiviks thought they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They've never encountered a species like humanity before. One that learns from defeat, adapts to overwhelming odds, and refuses to break." "They came expecting easy conquest," Bell continued. "And instead they learned that on Earth, mercy means one quick death. Not prolonged suffering, not torture, not the slow extinction they planned for us. We killed them efficiently because we still retained our humanity, even when showing none of the mercy they refused to understand." Kane nodded grimly. "They learned that humans fight hardest when backed into a corner, that we adapt, improvise, and overcome, that our weakness of compassion gives us strength they cannot fathom." Dr. Patel added the final observation from her research. "In the hundreds of worlds they conquered, they never understood that mercy isn't weakness, it's a choice. And the species that can choose mercy can also choose when to withhold it." As the council meeting concluded, Reed walked to the observation platform that looked out over the underground city. Thousands of survivors building new lives in the aftermath of near extinction. Children played in hydroponics gardens while engineers reverse-engineered Breivik technology nearby. Wilson joined him at the railing. "Do you think they'll remember, Admiral? When they return, will they remember what happened here?" Reed watched a group of cadets training with modified Breivik weapons, their movements precise and efficient. Humanity adapting once again. "They'll remember," he answered, "and so will we." Above them, through layers of rock and ruined cities, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, a planet the Breiviks had failed to conquer, protected now by the determination of its survivors and the painful lessons of first contact. The invaders had learned that humanity's capacity for mercy made their capacity for war all the more terrible. They had learned the hard way that sometimes, on Earth, mercy meant one quick death and nothing more.